Stand by to launch FanStream Sports.
3, 2, 1.
Let's start.
Hello, sports fans.
Welcome to FanStream Sports. Nothing but pure sports. This is the JP Show.
JP, it is so good to hear you back on the air.
Stand by.
Now, here's JP.
All right, welcome into a Friday edition of the JP Peterson Show. We are absolutely locked and loaded on this Friday. A lot of juicy topics to get into. We're going to have some fun this morning. We'll talk not about the Bulls. We'll talk about it, but that won't be the fun part. That's for damn sure. Another disappointing third period last night. They are not looking like a well-tuned playoff team at this point, so we'll get into that. The Bucks are at the combine trying to find an edge rusher, among other things. The quarterbacks are talking this morning. That will have an effect on what goes on for the Bucks draft as well. And we've got a very special guest coming on, two special guests, actually. Evan Klosky is going to join us from Channel 10 Sports. Always great to talk to Evan. Does a deep dive on all the big topics. And one of the big topics we'll be talking about today is the cost of the Rays Stadium. That vote is coming up in May. A full disclosure of financials in April is expected. Tom Mullins is going to join us. He and some of his partners did a deep dive on the financials. Their website is nohomerunsingular.com. If you want to check that out before the interview, nohomerun.com. And they've estimated the public cost to be $2.4 billion with a B, billion dollars. So let's welcome in my good buddy Tim Ham, IndyCar Tim, at our DSP affiliate in Dallas. That's your tip in cash, baby. $2.4 billion. I know you, big money,
dude. That is a lot of buckets of beer.
Wow.
That's how I relate things, right? Like here in Dallas, we've got bars that I go to that are the upper end bars that it's like, $25 for 6 bottles in a bucket. And then the lower end bars I go to where it's $14 for 6 bottles in a bucket, but
that's where I'd be hanging out.
Yeah. A lot of the nicer looking women are at the other one though.
Okay. I got you.
But then I can't.
I'm more interested in the cheap beer these days myself.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, I'm thinking about if you piled up $2.4 billion in beer buckets, how high would that go? Like Empire State Building high? Like how high?
That'd go to outer space, right?
Like 2.4 billion?
Billion? Yeah, it would have to, right?
People have no idea like how much a billion is. Like $1 billion because we just throw it away in cash to Ukraine. But that's fine. It's crazy how much money we're talking about here, for a municipality that is not really that big, in terms of money and finances. So, it's to me, it's a fascinating topic. It's very interesting. And, of course, yes, am I anti building it in St. Pete? Yes, because St. Pete can do a lot better with that development property than this deal. This is an incredible boondoggle for Stu Sternberg. I mean, I knew it was bad, but when I read all this, and these guys are super smart that did this deep dive, they're the ex Raymond James executive Tom Mullins, who's going to join us, and his partner Ron Diner, I believe it is. He'll explain all of it, their methods and everything, and how they got to these numbers. But these are guys that deal with these huge projects all over the United States, so they know how the sausage is made in all these huge projects. So there's a lot of hidden money in this deal, and the fact that on day one when the Rays had the press conference, they were like, "Oh, it's going to cost $450 million to the taxpayers," and I literally on this show laughed out loud. Maybe for like 30 minutes. I could not stop laughing. I'm like, oh my, well, okay. Or let's, I wonder what the real numbers are. Of course, they have all the county commission and St. Pete Council and the mayor, everybody up there with their pom-poms. Like, woo, let's go. Rays are going to stay. Saw a billboard yesterday. Staying here forever. A billboard in Hillsborough or something along that line. Here to stay. I think it was, that was the tagline. Here to stay. Like, okay, vote hasn't been taken yet. Financials have not even been disclosed in a final form. And we see the the template of the deal is out there, and that's what these guys have studied. That's public record. But the final details have not been given to the council members, and all of this negotiations has gone on in secret because they're doing these one-on-one meetings with council members and commission members to keep it out of the Sunshine Law. Another red flag. So many red flags in this deal, but the final tally is about 2.4 billion. And the thing is here, this is not anti-race baseball. I talked to Tom at length last night, and he's a big, huge baseball fan, lives in the Old Northeast, rides his bike to the games now. It couldn't be easier. This is a guy who would benefit more than maybe anybody from having a stadium in the same location. But he's also a citizen, and he understands what this is going to do to the city of St. Petersburg and Pinellas County, and the opportunity to do something so much better, that would really help the Black community a hell of a lot more than this stadium will.
Yeah.
And when you really break it down, I mean, think about this: affordable housing right next to a baseball stadium. First of all, why would you? That land is worth literally $22 million an acre. Okay, on the market. That's what the sum is just sold for, $20 million an acre. Okay, you could sell an acre, take the $20 million, take it to another location, which is more beneficial to the people who are going to live there, and literally build them $20 million worth of housing. Okay, you understanding how much more bang? That's just for 1 acre. How much more bang for the buck you can get, and how many more units of affordable housing you could actually build if you did this a smart way. And the reason, and why is affordable housing in this deal? Because it looks good politically. Oh, some of this money is going to go to affordable housing. Well, okay, great. Let's take 20 times more money that we could do if we did this the right way and put it towards affordable housing. And that's just a slice of how much better they could do for something else. And the bottom line is, and we've said this a million times, St. Pete is a wonderful downtown area. It does not need a baseball stadium to thrive. That real estate is absolutely, there are developers chomping at the bit to get a hold of that real estate to do things with it. And you have a once in a lifetime opportunity. There's no huge plot like this in a major metropolitan Sunbelt hot real estate area in America left to build on. And what they could do with this would benefit the city and the citizens for literally generations to come. What they're about to do with it is going to saddle them with bills and horrible debt for generations to come. You make the choice, and it's not about the Rays leaving Tampa Bay, folks. This is about, they're not, if this deal was not done, there still are other options. They can still stay in Tropicana Field for another year and play baseball. They can still, I still hear people say, well, Hillsborough doesn't have any money. That's not true. That's not true at all. They just are not going to write a blank check for Stu Sternberg and bend over like St. Pete is. And no municipality is going to do that. I got news for you. Not even Nashville. So it's a horrible deal. It is a boondoggle for Stu Sternberg and nothing else. And Tom's going to explain this a little bit better than I can in terms of the numbers. So we'll do that at 11 o'clock.
JP, you want a quick illustration of the difference between $1 million and $1 billion?
Yes.
If someone gave you $1 million.
Okay.
And they said, spend $1,000 every day and come back to me when you're broke.
Okay.
It would take you 3 years.
Okay.
To spend $1 million if you spend $1,000 every day. If someone gave you $1 billion, said spend 1,000 every day, come back to me when you're broke, it would take 2,700 years.
Wow.
That's the difference between $1 million and $1 billion.
Holy shit. That's a great example right there.
Yeah.
That's two, and we're talking about 2.4 billion
of those.
Of that. Yeah. Yeah. It's incredible. And this is why suddenly the Rays love St. Petersburg. All right. So let's get into some other stuff. I don't like talking about national stuff, but this kind of affects the Buccaneers and the entire NFL draft. Caleb Williams spoke this morning, and evidently, Tim, you told me that the people at Pro Football Talk,
the experts,
the experts at Pro Football Talk, evidently just watched the Gettysburg Address.
Yeah,
I mean, this was so good. Give me the story on this.
So the quote is, if I can find it again, just disappeared on me. So yeah. Pro Football Talk, for those of you, Mike Florio and the NBC situation.
It's Mike Florio. He wrote this. I can tell you that.
Oh, this sounds just like an attorney writing it, right?
Exactly.
I can get back there to it. So basically, the Bears I guess he tweeted out, we just sat down with Caleb Williams for a 10-minute interview. And he said, with all apologies to whoever the teams were, the Packers, the whatever
Vikings,
they were.
Yeah, they're divisional opponents.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was the Packers and the Vikings and the Lions.
Yeah.
The Bears are about to have their first franchise quarterback since Sid Luckman.
Yeah. Good luck.
For those of you that don't know who Sid Luckman is, go Google it because he played back in like the 40s.
Yeah. The last Bears quarterback to complete more than 2 passes in a row.
Right.
It's just like but the hype on this dude and what really kind of got me last night was he came out and said he's not doing medicals.
Yeah.
He's not doing medicals, which, that's what the combine is all about, is doing, teams meeting and getting your medicals for the most part. It's the most important part. And I will say this, it does seem a little ridiculous that every team you meet with has to poke and pull and prod you, but that's, the medical stuff is a very subjective thing. Right. Like, doctors will disagree on a lot of different stuff. To one, a loose knee to one doctor is a fine knee to another. It's a very subjective thing. So you want your doctors looking at the players, especially with a pick that is this generationally changing. Right. So he said he's not going to do that. And I, just from the very beginning, and I saw last night on Twitter, a lot of these draft nicks were like, well, then he's off my board. I mean, that's a red flag. That's a red flag right there. It's just, as I put on Twitter last night, well, if they make him do the medicals, is he going to go crying to his mommy in the stands? Is he going to jump up there? I don't want to do the medicals.
What if he doesn't get drafted number 1, JP? What if he doesn't go number 1? Are they going to have the cameras on him at the draft and he's going to be crying in his mama's lap because he didn't
it's
go
interesting because I just saw this and when I get off maybe beforehand, Jaden Daniels is plus 1,300 to be the number 1 pick.
Really?
Yeah, I'm getting some of that action.
Oh,
I'm
absolutely,
getting some of that action.
Man. That's a great value right there.
Yeah, I'm getting some of that action. I suggest you do as well because there's already, you can as long as we've been doing this, Tim, you can watch the media, you can watch ESPN, you can watch and just kind of feel what's going to happen. I remember watching the Cam Newton workout and the reaction to the Cam Newton workout. I'm like, and he was never considered, for the most part, as a number 1 pick.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember there was even with what he did in college, people were like, he's an athlete. He's not a pure quarterback. He's not going to. After his workout, it was like slam dunk number 1, slam dunk number 1. There's private workout, and it wasn't even close. And if you watch the workout, you went slam dunk number 1. It was amazing. It was probably one of the greatest individual workouts of all time.
Yeah.
Now, did that translate into a great career? He had a great career. He had MVP, went to a Super Bowl. Anything but a bust. He was not a bust. He had a fantastic career. Little bit of a weirdo and a knucklehead, but he was one of the most incredible offensive weapons, frankly, I've ever seen in football in his prime. Sure. He was unstoppable in the red zone. If you don't remember, you should remember. I mean, all we remember for the most part is him staring at that football and
staring
the Super Bowl.
Fumble.
That's at his own fumble. Like, should I get on that? Let me think about this for a while. Oops, too late. I went back and looked at that the other day, and it's even more jarring now when you look at it. I remember watching it live. I came out of my chair, and but I went back and looked at it again. I'm like, holy.
Because you know what? If he'd have come back the next year, or if they'd have won that game, nobody would remember it. Nobody would care.
Oh, of course.
If they'd have come back the next year and won, or won a second one, nobody would remember. Nobody would. A few people would, but it wouldn't. Yeah. But dude, that defined his career because that was it. That's the only shot he had.
Yeah. And think about that. That defined his career. All the things that he did.
Yep.
Like even the crazy, wearing grandma's hairnet. Like I thought that would define his career.
No.
But I was just thinking to myself, show aside, is there another moment that defined a player more than that? I mean, think about the moments that have defined players, and I'm thinking, gosh,
I'll give you one. It's not football related.
Yeah. Any sport.
Bill Buckner.
Yeah. Bill Buckner, great player, borderline Hall of Fame numbers. Nobody remembers anything else. That's probably That's probably the best one. But I would put that one, that Cam Newton, not hopping on the grenade, in the top 5.
Did he ever call that a business decision? He made a business decision.
He did make a business decision. Probably he didn't need to. We knew what it was.
Yeah,
we knew what it was. So put that in your memory banks, and maybe we'll do that as a topic in the off season. Like, I would think, Jordan had so many.
Yeah.
But so I mean, the shot over Elo for me, but he had so many moments in his career.
Blue game.
I think these would all go more in the dubious.
Right.
Your boy of the Rangers, the right fielder,
Nelson Cruz.
What a career that dude had. What do you remember him for?
That's all I care about.
That's right.
And dude, I followed that dude from Double-A. I followed his entire by the way, he just now retired. You realize that?
Mm-hmm.
After last season, he was still playing, and the Rangers gave up on him.
Incredible Hall of Fame, almost worthy career, if not.
Well, here's another one locally, Tony Romo. When he dropped the field goal against the Seahawks in the wild card game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yeah.
There's a couple of these.
It's defining careers, but that was for Camden. So got off track here. But this is the quarterbacks are talking today, and I would just think I'm hearing Louis Riddick talk about this. Darren Orlovsky already said it yesterday. He's their number one, and there's a great analyst out there. I think was it Hasselbeck? A couple other analysts I've heard go Drake May. They think Drake May is a better prospect because of his size, and he's more Justin Herbert-esque.
Right.
So I think this number one quarterback thing is anything but settled. I think for a long time that's been the kind of the narrative, but I think it's anything but settled. So we'll see.
And I'll tell you right now, I'm not a draft expert, but I've been covering the draft for a long time. I've seen a lot of quarterbacks play college and how it does or doesn't translate into the pros.
Right.
Caleb Williams is not my number one quarterback Caleb Williams isn't my number 2 quarterback in this draft.
Really?
Yeah. I'm just not I think he's got some issues personally that are going to prohibit him from being a stud in the NFL. Now, he's got all the physical tools. We know this, right? He's probably the most physically talented of all the guys. But I think I've got May 1 and Daniels 2.
I like Jaden Daniels. I mean, I think maybe, and sometimes you get enamored with players because you see them with your own eyes.
Yeah.
And I've seen him twice against FSU. And his speed is breathtaking. When he hits that second gear and running the football, he's running away from people. I don't know what he's going to run in the 40 if they do that today or what. Maybe they may just be talking today, or if he even runs it. But that dude he's Lamar fast. He's Lamar fast.
Yeah.
And I think his running is underestimated. The dude put up maybe been 700 yards against Florida. I don't care. Florida's defense was not great. I get it. But it's an SEC defense.
Right.
Barely. But
kind of
700 yards. 700 yards.
Yeah.
And he just ran at will, ran away from people, threw at will. The dude's talent is off the charts. Now, listen, if he was 15 pounds heavier, there wouldn't even be a discussion. Am I wrong?
No.
There would not even be a discussion.
No. And by the way, Pro Football Talk just tweeted out again a quote from Caleb Williams saying, "The teams that I visit with personally will receive my medical information." That's not really the way it works. You can't just provide them with stuff. They're going to want to do it themselves.
Well, yeah. And he says, we'll see it. Like, yeah, what does that mean? They're going to get a sheet of paper?
You got something notarized, right? He's going to hold up a notarized sheet of paper, say, here's my medicals. Y'all draft me.
No bueno. So we'll see. And of course, how does that affect the Bucs? Well, what Chicago does is going to affect what the Bucs do tremendously, because Chicago, at this point, I think most of the scuttlebutt is they're done with Justin Fields. He's headed to Atlanta. That would shock me if that whole thing didn't go down.
Yeah.
So what are the Bears doing at number one? This Baker does that if Justin Fields doesn't go and they don't trade him, who's trading up to get him? How's that affecting the draft? And does that now make the Falcons in play for Baker Mayfield? Because if there's one place that I think Baker would go, and now people have talked about the Patriots because of the connection with all the Browns employees. Well, that Browns thing didn't go so great for Baker,
Right.
especially at the end. So the guys in LA, Raheem, Zach Robinson, they love Baker. They love Baker. And he is definitely an option for them. But I think he's option B. I think Justin Fields is option A. But they don't have Justin Fields. And I think right now they're trying to show some leverage, like, hey, they're talking to the Bears. And I'm sure the Bears are going, we want 2 number 1 picks for Justin Fields.
Right.
As they should. That's where the negotiation starts, and you go down from there. So they're trying to get the best deal they can get for Justin Fields, and the Falcons are going, look, we'll give you a 2 and a 4. That's it. And if not, we're moving on to Baker.
Yeah.
Or Kirk Cousins. So take it or leave it. So this is the way these deals work. So, but that puts Baker in play in Atlanta. It puts him in play in Pittsburgh. It puts him in play
maybe in Minnesota if they move on.
In Minnesota. Yeah. So Baker's got options. And we've talked ad nauseum about why I think he's staying here, and I still believe that. But again, this is why we watch the entire domino setup here. This is why we're watching everything, because, we think we know where the chess pieces are going. We think we know, but this is the NFL, and stuff gets crazy. So,
teams do weird things at this time of year, man. Sometimes you just don't understand it.
So we're gonna get into this with Evan Klosky, the edge rusher deal with the Buccaneers, and some more Bucs stuff. So don't worry, Bucs fans. We got plenty more Bucs content coming your way. But I wanted to move over to the Lightning here real quick. Another disappointing night. I mean, there's just no other way to put it. I work for the Lightning, as many of you know, and it's and you have to be honest, right? You have to be honest about what you see. At least on this program, we have to be honest. We're not ripping them in the intermission reports. But in the post game, Brian Engblom and I and Bobby the Chief Taylor, I think we're very and those guys know way more about hockey than I do. And their assessment of this team is that they are not doing the things they need to do right now to be successful in the playoffs. And closing out games is one of them. And when you think about this now, they've had a stretch of games here at home. They've lost, 4 in a row at home, and 2 of them coming to Ottawa and Buffalo. At this time of year, those were 4 points you banked. You had to get those 4 points. And you didn't. You got the Canadians coming in Saturday, another non-playoff team, and you better freaking get 2 points there, because you're going into this stretch now of 5 home games in 14 days where other teams are going to make up all the games in hand. And in 2 weeks, if you don't go at least 4-1 at home and win the rest of these in this homestand, and you got the Panthers coming in, then, you're in trouble. You're going to be in trouble. And you're going to maybe on the outside looking in. I think Engblom said this the other day, and I think he's right. Well, I know he's right. It says when you're talking about the last 10, 15 games and you're in the playoff chase, right? You got to win 4 out of your 5 games to make up ground.
Right.
You've got to win. You've got to play 80% hockey to make up ground. The Bolts are not playing 80% hockey now. They're not playing 800 hockey now. They're not even close. They're more towards 500 hockey. Mm-hmm. So they've got, it looks like, okay, we're still in the playoff hunt. No, you're not. At this point, with all games being equal in 2 weeks, you're probably going to be, if you continue to play like this, on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
So the playoffs have begun. These are do or die games. And when you have a 2-1 lead over the Buffalo Sabres in the third period, you got to close that game out. You have got to close that game out. And listen, that's what the players said last night. I'm not, going off on some tangent here now, ripping the Lightning. The players have said that too. We got to get points. That's all there is to it. You got to get points. And you have an opportunity like this in a 2-1 game you've got against Buffalo. And I'm not saying they're horrible. They went on a 4-game win streak before losing to the Panthers the other night. So they've won 5 out of 6. They are in their last 21 games, they've given up 46 goals with Luukkonen, who's played really well last night and a damn good goalie.
Yeah.
So they've given up 46 goals in 21 games. Go look at how many goals the Lightning have given up in their last 21. It's a hell of a lot more than 46. I can tell you that, because that's tied for the best in that stretch in the NHL. So the Sabres have been, oddly enough, playing some really good defensive hockey. So at 2-1, you may not score again, but you don't need to score again. They do. And the Lightning gave up 3 bad penalties, 2 in the third period. 1 cost them the tying goal, and then 1 cost them the overtime goal. And, you know, your penalty kill's got to be better. Your power play's got to be better. They had a big chance in the third period of power play, and they almost gave up a shorty. It was not, and maybe got a shot off on net. So, last night was not anything to write home about. I listen. I think they played well at times. They probably played well enough, and had more puck possession. And they should have won a game. They should have won a game, but they didn't. And at this time of year, that's just not okay.
No, and like we talked about, they've been playing playoff hockey for the last week and a half, 2 weeks, really, just because of where they are in the standings and where we are in the season.
In terms of the importance of the games, yeah.
You get a point against Buffalo. You should have had 2. That point's going to be insignificant here in the long run. That second point would have been pretty good. But when you look at the loss against Buffalo, the loss against Philly, the loss against Washington a few games ago, I feel like that's those are all kind of a microcosm of their entire season, right? And I wanted to pick your brain a little bit because you're way closer to the situation than I am. These deficiencies that they're having on defense and allowing goals and odd man rushes, is this more of a Vasi issue? Is this a defensive issue? Is it a combination of the two? I mean, is there something that you can look at to say this is where they're failing? This is what needs to be addressed.
I'll say this. The last few losses look a lot like the beginning of the year. Last night, Tage Thompson takes a turnover and it gets right in the back of the net, in a heartbeat.
Right.
And every mistake they made early in the season ended up in the back of their net. Then they went through a spell where they stopped that. And Vasi was really, really good. He won 10 of 13 games. And then, the last 2 weeks, they've kind of reverted back to that a little bit. They had the collapse at Philadelphia in the third period when coverage was terrible, but Vasi let in a couple softies. A high blocker side. Last night was Thompson's goal, the game tire, he went high blocker side, but that shot was like in over Vasi's shoulder or just under the bar. It was an incredible shot, but it was high blocker. And I was talking to Brian Bradley about that and said, we're seeing a lot of that. We saw a lot of that in Philadelphia. So they're just, and it was short side as well. So those are, look, is it a great shot? Yes, it is a phenomenal shot. Does Vasi usually stop those? Yep. In those situations, he does. And that's why the Lightning have been so good. That's why they've won 2 cups. And when Vasilevsky, and I'm not putting the blame on him because they're, these guys are wide open in the slot when they're shooting. It's like, what are we doing? So it's a combination. The goaltending has not been Vasi-esque, best in the world. I mean, when you say best in the world, it should mean something, right?
Yeah.
It's superhuman. And he's not been superhuman for a year and a year plus now because of this back injury. It's not the same old Vasi. And I think if you're going to boil it all down, that's it. You're number one, your defense has not been good enough. That's, data-wise incontrovertible. You're 23rd, 24th. You've been as high as 27th in defense. It's not good enough. So why are you having defensive breakdowns? And I would say, number one, defensively, their positioning is terrible, and they're not aware of where the danger is coming from. They just constantly are not aware on the ice of the next guy. They tend to be puck starers, and that's cost them a lot. And then secondarily, they're not getting superhuman goaltending that they're used to getting. So that, to me, if you're going to boil it down, they're scoring fine. That's it. And what does that come from? Well, you lose a Ryan McDonough.
Yeah.
Sergachev has been out, and I know he wasn't having a great season, but he's a great defenseman. He's a great offensive defenseman. He keeps the pressure on the other team, and more zone time for the Lightning means no zone time for the other team. So the team is off. It's off right now, and Julien Brisebois has an opportunity here to go make some changes. Will it fundamentally change this team? It could. And here's an interesting thing, Tim. So they've got this homestand. They've got 5 games in 14 days. So they've got 2 4-day stretches where they're going to be practicing.
Right.
So if Brisebois were to make a move today, tomorrow, one thing that they could really benefit from is practice. and they can acclimate these players who, if they've shipped some out, and they're probably obviously going to have to get something in return, and bring some in, they'll have a rare opportunity within the season in a playoff chase to kind of assimilate those players into your system in practice, which is, very rare.
Yep.
So, and I'm sure they're factoring that in. So they have an opportunity to kind of remake this team with 20 games to go, 22 games to go. They've got the salary cap room with the Sergachev long-term injury. So Julian Brisebois has been historically very aggressive. So I think, keep your eye on the Twitter machine, the X machine, because something could pop.
You think Vasi's hurt still? You think there's something wrong with him physically, or is he just off?
He's not the same. I don't know that, I'm not a doctor, but I know this, it's not the same guy. And there was a significant back injury. So,
right.
I think we can all do the addition on that. And it doesn't mean he's never going to be that guy again. I think this is very understandable when you have a severe back injury. And here's the other thing. It's Vasi. So he came back. He wanted to come back as quick as possibly could, right? He pushed the limits on everything, rehab, everything. Maybe they did too much. Yeah. I don't know. Or just maybe it takes longer than 2 months to get back to normal when you have an injury like that, which I think is much more likely.
Yeah.
So, it's not out of the question. We see these guys back on the ice and we're like, oh, he's better. He's better now. Old Vasi, plug him in. No, he had freaking back surgery. It's not like, getting a cold. So I think there's probably going to be some recalculation here. Right. And we'll see if he gets better. And again, it sounds like we're putting it all on him, and we're not. At least it's not my intent. It's just when you rely on it for so long and it's not what it used to be, and you ask me what the difference is, that's what I see.
Yeah.
But again, how do you fault a guy for not being a superhero? And he's just, below that now. The team, it's a team. The guy's got to pick him up, play better in front of him, for God's sakes. Let's try that and see how that works. I think it would work pretty well. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, Evan Klosky from Channel 10 is going to join us. Always love talking to him about all things Tampa Bay sports. He covers it all. We're brought to you by the Jeeves Law Group. We're local. We're good, and we get results. That's the Scott Jeeves mantra, and he's been doing this for over 30 years here in the local area. Got an office downtown St. Pete, office downtown Tampa. It's as local as they come, folks. They know the area. They know the people that work in these judicial systems. That's a benefit, no question about it. So don't become a number at some huge law firm that loves to spend lots of money on commercials. It's the Jeeves Law Group, and they support your favorite show, right? So why wouldn't you go to them? Jeeves Law Group, JEEVES lawgroup.com. Back in 3 with Evan Klosky. Stay with us. JP here from my friends at your local Synovus Bank, and I do mean friends, and I do mean local. One of the local managers in Tampa is John Acosta, big fan of the show, and I've known him for over 40 years. He's been in local banking since 1983. You talk about developing relationships. You don't stick around for that long unless you're doing things the right way and have a great reputation, and that's the focus company-wide at Synovus. Big enough to handle any complex international transaction, but small enough to answer the phone when you have an urgent question about your business or personal account. And for personal accounts, they have a very easy app that works great. You can do everything online. And for large or small businesses, you will get that personal touch and services to help build your business, taking your dreams and aspirations from the whiteboard to reality. We can make that happen. Let us show you how. For a get-acquainted meeting to open a business or personal account, just call John or go to synovus.com to find out where your local branch is. All right, this is for all you guys who don't want to go to the gym and do 5,000 crunches. At Bay Area Modern Medical Center, you can get on the new True Body machine where you can reduce fat and tone up your muscle. It's like doing 54,000 crunches in just 15 minutes. Define your body as you see fit. True Body offers personalized muscle stimulation that delivers the equivalent of those 54,000 crunches in just 15 minutes. Just
get in touch with them at Bay Area Modern Medical Center, BAMMC.com. Chris Lugo and the team over there will set you up on TrueBody and get amazing results. Non-invasive with comfortable and little to no pain and zero downtime. You can isolate and target those areas that you want to improve and treat multiple areas simultaneously. It's an amazing machine, so check it out at Bay Area Modern Medical Center, BAMMC.com.
JP here for the Geddes Gordon Real Estate Group and our good friend Jane Geddes. Folks, simply put, there is nobody like Jane. Jane is a former LPGA two-time major championship winner. She was also vice president of talent relations at WWE. She also has a law degree from Stetson. So if Jane can drain a 10-footer to win the U.S. Open and stare down Hulk Hogan in the boardroom, you want Jane on your real estate team to not only negotiate the best deal, but find you the perfect home or investment property. And when you work with the Geddes Gordon Group, you become part of the real estate family and get concierge services that include expertly staging, marketing, and preparing your home for sale. Advice on golf properties. Hey, you might even get some golf tips. Many of their clients become friends long after the sale or purchase is completed. It's all part of the deal. So if you're looking for that perfect home or investment property or trying to get top dollar for your home, go with Jane Geddes and the Geddes Gordon Group because there's nobody like Jane. Call 813-485-6808 or go to geddesgordon.kw.com. That's GEDDES Gordon.kw.com or call 813-485-6808.
Let's go. Right now. Back to the show on FanStream Sports.
All right, welcome back to the JP Peterson Show, brought to you by the great folks at Bay Area Modern Medical Center, BAMMC.com. Had Chris Lugo on the other day. We had a great chat about supplements. So if you want to check that out, you can go back to, what show was that? That Wednesday show? I think it was Wednesday show.
That was the last time I was on, so yeah, it was Wednesday.
Wednesday's show at the end of the show, at the 11:45 mark. Because there's a lot of bad supplements out there. So get the good stuff because you're wasting your money if you're spending it on some of this other stuff that we talked about. So check that out. It's 11:45 on the Wednesday show. You can go back on YouTube and watch that or on Twitter, anywhere. Really easy to find.
If you go back and watch that too, you might get a little too much information or more than you wanted about my medical history.
That's true. That's entirely true, which was the fun part. BAMMC.com is where you can also, I think he posted that on his website. So you can go get your appointment there.
Oh, good.
And you can also get your appointment there. Watch the whole segment on supplements, everything else. We're waiting on Evan Klosky here to join us. I sent him the link late, so I'm hoping he got everything and everything is honky dory. Yeah, I think he did. Oh no, I screwed that up too.
Uh-oh.
All right, entertain the people while we do this.
All right, let's go over some comments here then.
Yes, do that.
At the very beginning, you were talking about the stadium funding and the finances behind it. We're gonna have on Tom Mullins here a little bit later in the show to talk about some of that stuff. Thomas Kaspar Rock ringed in and said "Field of Reams," which I thought was pretty cute. You know,
yeah, that is good.
Play on words. Can't build museums in a stadium parking lot.
Yeah, that's so dumb. It's so dumb.
And then maybe my favorite, affordable subsidized housing embedded in $800,000 condos. Does anyone want to move in?
It just, it's such a political thing, right? Like all right, so we're doing this big deal. And, one of the reasons I got elected, Mayor Welch, was, for affordable housing, equity for the Black community. So we have to include that in the deal and on this property. No, you don't. Why do you have to do that? Just to make the deal, the boondoggle deal look good? It's like, oh, well, they are giving us $50 million towards the museum, but you're selling them the property at a $600 million boondoggle. So I'll give you $50 million if you give me 600. I mean, I'll be that nice. I'll step up in that case. So that's just silly. It's just not good business. And we'll get in more with that with Tom Mullins. All right, let's welcome in our good friend Evan Klosky from Tampa Bay's 10 sports anchor there. Oh, you coming to me live from the office there, huh?
Yeah. Luckily, I live close, so I decided to come in Make sure we get a good camera set up, a good
I
audio.
I like it. You got the backwards hat working. We got a little journalism field where I love it. I can wear a hat every day. Tim's got his skull cap on today. Yeah.
I feel like we're on TMZ right now.
I'm trending in that direction. So
it does get a little TMZ-ish.
It's got a TMZ feel to it right now.
We're gonna have the guy in the background come on over and join it. And be like, "Hey, Joey, what do you think about the stadium?"
Well, our newsroom is so interesting because our studio is in the newsroom. So I can't tell you how many times people just walk up and it's like, you're doing work and people are ready to talk about what happened last night or whatever. So you understand being a sports guy. You sometimes get you get caught up in conversations throughout the day.
While you're on the air.
Yeah.
So have you ever been doing your sportscast and somebody just walk up to you and go, "Hey, did you see the Rays game last night?" I'm like,
"No,
dude, I'm on the air."
Yeah, no. Luckily, not like that. But certainly beforehand, there have been some times I'm in crunch mode, and people are like, "Hey, what happened last night?"
Oh God, yeah.
Not the time.
Well, when I was at Channel 8, luckily we had a separate office in the back, so we would there wouldn't be people just but people would still stream in, and it's 11:05, and I've got 3 VOs to cut still, and they're like, "Do you think you should have pulled him in the sixth?" I'm like, "Bro, I got give me a."
Got to table this.
We'll talk about this a little bit later on. I hear you. So we were just talking a little bit about the Rays Stadium. I'd love to get your take on this because you've had a lot of thoughts on Twitter on this. We're having Tom Mullins come on after you, and I don't know if you've seen the nohomerun.com website. $2.4 billion is the actual cost for this to the public. Do you still have the same feeling about this project as you once did, or does that change your mind at all?
From a perspective of it getting done, I still lean towards it getting done. I do find it a bit concerning when the Rays are asking fans, "Hey, send letters to your politicians to tell them that you want the stadium." To me, that shows a little bit of fear. We need to prove that people here want this, that it's not such a case closed sort of deal. Again, eventually, I do think as the deadline, which is what Stu has been doing for 15 years here now, is playing his cards all the way up into the last possible moment.
Right.
I think the deal is so sweet for him that given between getting it done and not getting it done, feel like at the last minute maybe he'll capitulate on a thing or two, but it's tough. I mean, it certainly with more time, right? I mean, the initial news came out, said, "Hey, we're here. We have a press conference. It's going to happen." Now time has bled a little bit more. The people who are voting have looked into it more, have wanted the financials. Those who have been delayed throughout the process, things have been like, "Oh, we'll get it to you. So eventually I think it does get done. Whether I feel as confident in the plan or not is separate. And, I do believe that things are getting log jammed in there at the end to just say, "Oh, if you don't do it now, you're never going to do it." And, that's just sort of been the cards that have been played for such a long time for our city.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, this has gotten to the point of stadium fatigue for everybody. And I think so many people that didn't want it in St. Pete now are just like, "Just get it done. I don't care. We don't want you to move. So just get it done." I think it's a false narrative. I still think, they can play in Tropicana Field for 2 more seasons if they needed to. I would like them to do it right instead of do it, and Stu's been the one has been the problem the entire time. He's the problem. He hasn't, this is my opinion, hasn't negotiated in good faith, and that's why we are where we are. So, and this is just a terrible deal for St. Pete, but we'll do more of that when Tom comes on. Your thoughts on the Rays on the field? I don't know if you've been out of spring training yet, but this is a very interesting team. I like the fact that there's some continuity to it because they won 99 games. I would have liked to seen, Tyler Glasnow stay in the rotation, but we knew that wasn't going to happen. I think it's a very interesting team. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I do too. And, it's not surprising that a lot of people on the outside looking at the Rays think they're going to suck. That just, every year the projections come out. I see 86 or something wins and they go over it. Certainly, the past few years, we've been a little bit spoiled on the teams they presented and really knowing what we're going to get. This year, I don't necessarily know exactly what we're going to find with this team. I am excited about it, though, and mostly because of their depth. So, the biggest worry that everyone brings up is starting pitching, which is fair because they don't really have the high ceiling guy in Glass now. They got Eflin, who, by the way, was just a Cy Young caliber candidate last season. So that, can't poo-poo that. But also, they have built a lot of depth. I think they've gotten to the point where they said, last year they had their 5 guys entering the year, right? Like if these 5 stay healthy, that is maybe the best rotation in all of baseball. This year, it's like we're going to have a bunch of guys who are probably going to give 5 innings apiece. And then we are going to use a handful of these bridge guys, whether that's an Armstrong, a Davinsky, Maton. I don't know if he's going to be a 2-inning guy or, what it might be. But their bullpen is probably the best it's been entering a season in a very long time. Clevenger comes back. You still got Jason Adam. You still have Fairbanks. That's not to mention that there's going to be 1 or 2 guys that pop up this year that we've never heard of before, or who are floundering with another team, and all of a sudden they come over to the Rays.
The Japanese kid,
Well, that's and so he's a great example of a kid when coming over here. It's like look at our history. A starting pitcher is going to go down at some point. Not to mention Shane Baz is going to be worked up. And they're trying to build him up slowly because when they do let him come up, they want him to stay and go into the playoffs. So don't be alarmed if Baz isn't up by like May or June. That's part of the plan, especially easing off of TJ. You're also going to get Jeffrey Springs in the back half of the year. Now, how much of that? We don't know. If you get an inning out of Drew Rasmussen, I take that as a plus. I'm not even factoring him into the equations. But they built out even – with Tyler Alexander, some other guys, they have safety nets on safety nets for when people go down. So that's good.
Interesting. Yeah,
that's good depth. It's not sexy depth, but it's good. As far as the hitting is concerned, there's a lot of depth there as well. Currently, when building out the opening day roster, except the catcher, building out the opening day roster, there's still a logjam. I don't know how Curtis Mead right now makes the opening day roster. And
who's starting at shortstop?
Yeah, it's going to be Caballero to start, and I think they're going to use Caballero, Ahmed Rosario to see how that works for a month while Taylor Walls is still on the shelf. Walls might have to maybe even stay in AAA when he comes back for a little bit to figure out things. Yeah, the Rays are hoping that over the first 60 games of the season, I think, they get a large enough sample size to see how the pieces are falling, and then they can manipulate things and make a trade here, move that person there. And I think everything's going to start crystallizing as the season goes along. We'll see Caminero come up, and we'll see all these players fit into a certain picture. But right now, it's just a bunch of guys who, we like Johnny DeLuca. What is he going to be? Richie Palacios, we like him. We think, but what does that mean? Is Brandon Lau going to stay healthy? How am I going to get Caminero time? How am I going to get Aranda time if Harold Ramirez isn't traded before opening day? So there's just a lot of things where they have it all in this cauldron. And they're very good players when you put it into a stat sheet and an Excel sheet of how we can manipulate the lefties and the righties. But as far as like the Randys and the Yandys are concerned, there aren't that many stars to really boast about. And I think that's maybe why some fans are worried. But I actually think this team is going to be far better in the back half of the year and towards a stretch run than maybe what we see in April versus like what we saw last year when they went out to that 13-0 run.
Yeah, I think you're right. Evan Klosky joining us here from WTSP Channel 10. What did you make of the Bucks report card? This is kind of fun to talk about. Yeah. You're over there all the time. Do you feel a mortal danger of your physical health when you walk in there?
Yeah, I to a degree, I do like what Rick Stroud said. It's millionaires complaining about billionaires. I do like what Booger McFarland said on Twitter. Is like some of these players need to go to what the old facility.
Exactly,
like. They don't know what bad.
I was there.
Is. So all I know is $1, and $1 is to me super nice. Yeah, it is a super nice facility.
It's awesome.
So the locker room, is it the fan? Like, are there probably colleges around the country that have a better locker room than the Bucks?
Yes.
Absolutely. So I'm sure some of these kids are coming up, especially if you go to those premier programs where they dump a ton into these situations, and then you go to the pros and you're not, for lack of a better word, coddled. And that's kind of what you get. But, all that aside, I think mostly the grades that I like to look at, like head coach, how's your training staff, weight room, most of that they got, CBA. So, as far as like the child care stuff, the team has to work with those families. Who knows who they pissed off along the way with that, and as far as the facilities are concerned, I don't think that's
it's a joke.
Yeah. So I always take those things with a grain of salt because you don't know who's filling them out. Who, if you get usually people who are more pissed fill them out and people who are happy don't. That's just the way that life is. People like to complain. They don't like to really give compliments. So, but I'm sure they can improve. And, they released a statement, which I thought was actually pretty commendable on their part. They didn't do it last year, I don't think. Yeah. And I don't think they had to do it this year, but yeah, I'm not overly too worried about the Bucs. I think from the people that I talk to, from the people I'm sure you talk to, a lot of those players are pretty happy.
Yeah, I think they all universally love the way the Bucs treat them and their families. I mean,
these report cards that I've seen, because I looked at most of them across the league, of course, here in Dallas for the Cowboys. It seems to me these report cards are more of a testimony to how spoiled some of the players really are than how bad facilities and teams are. I mean, it's almost laughable reading some of these comments.
Yeah. And sometimes it is a facility thing that they got to dig into. I mean, those are good. It's always good to hear those things and to double check them. But in the grand picture, it's like it's not that big of a deal, at least from the facility standpoint. If there were like, like with the Chiefs or something where their training staff for the second straight year got an F. I mean, somehow but they still win a Super Bowl. So it's like, fans shouldn't also believe like, oh, this like correlates to winning either. Obviously it does not. So it's just, it's just creating happiness in a workplace. And no matter which locker room you step in, whatever office you step in, there are going to be certain complaints that are here that aren't there, and everyone, different personalities.
Yeah. It's interesting though. You have, the Bucs charging $90 for childcare on a Sunday, and a millionaire who's making, however much money these football players are making, complaining about it. Well, we've got two parents working, paying $3,000 a month in healthcare or childcare, and it's like that's a problem.
Exactly. And on the face of it, it's like, if you can look at it and say like it's a billionaire. It's not like you're really charging these guys $90 for daycare. Understandable. But it goes back to your point again. Like these guys can pay for it. Like they can't. Ultimately, I'm not saying like, look, it's a service that's offered free for most teams out there. The Bucs don't. Okay, that probably pisses some people off, but are they okay? Like, are they really scratching around for those $90? No, they're not. So that's where you have to really understand, like, the complaints, and does that really affect their day to day or their financial spreadsheet? And it does not. So that's just reality.
Funny stuff. Reading some of the comments. What are your thoughts on where the Lightning are right now?
It's go time right now. I mean, like, I don't know how many more times we can say that, but like, this is, I said, entering this 5-game homestand, they had to get 7 points. They need 7, and they already blasted right through their OT loss against the Sabres, which you were hoping that Sabres Montreal would be win-win, and then you can play 2 of 3 on the backside. Now Montreal's game is a must-win. So, then you get Calgary, Rangers, Philly, or Calgary, Philly, Rangers. And, now you're going to go into that portion saying we need to at least maybe get 5 out of that. So I don't know what's going to happen. I think that, again, if the Lightning can get to the playoffs, I don't think any team wants to see them, especially with the star power they have and the fear that Vasi can click at any moment, just like any other goalie out there in the league. When it comes to playoff time, if Vasi clicks, like people are screwed. So, there is a fear there, but they have to get there. Stamkos coming off his least productive month of his career next to a rookie season he had of 4 points. Unlike Mike Evans, not really the contract year Stammer we expected from him. Mm-hmm. So that's a bit of an issue, especially with a minus 25. And I don't like to play into plus minuses too often, but when you don't play on the PK, when you're not out there too much on those goals that you're really giving up, where you expect like a Brandon Hagel or Nick Paul, your plus minus is going to get dragged down when you're getting on the PK. Stammer, it should not. Like, he's got 51 points and he's a minus 25. He's been on the ice for 76 goals. It's
bad.
That's just not good. So, it really comes down to this team is incapable of not having its stars step up.
Right.
Kucherov doesn't get 2 points a night and they lose. It's like, he's carrying the team. Brandon Hagel, I think, maybe that contract might be a steal when it's all said and done.
Yeah, absolutely.
But ultimately, I think that it's one of those things where I think the team has a chance.
You think they make a big move?
What I think they do is I think they trade for a defenseman that's going to be here longer than a year. Julien Brisebois cannot be making a win now move. He can't whatever, and he usually doesn't. Usually, outside of like Savard, usually his trades are, I got you this year, I got you next year. I mean, even with like Mikey Eismont, that was a little tiny deal that he's like, oh, this is a guy we're gonna have cheap for next year. So he's very forward thinking. It's very clear they need defensive help. And it sucks that Sergei's down, but the issues defensively were with Sergei as well.
That's right.
So they need a long-term answer there. And if they can find something that's fiscally responsible, they can at least get through this year before making a really tough decision, which might come in the offseason because they have a surplus of money right now and they can essentially make a deal with prospects and not worry about the money. And then in the offseason say, all right, we're keeping this guy. Who are we getting rid of? And really figure it out from there.
All right, Evan, give me some other stories off the beaten path that you guys have been working on. You can go USF, you can go St. Pete Grand Prix, Valspar, or high school, whatever you're doing. Give me some other.
Well, first off, the USF basketball team has been, phenomenal.
That's an incredible story.
Winners in 19 of their last 20 in the top 25. I mean, if we talked at this time last year, and if I told you, hey, USF, this program's going to be a top 25 team next year. I mean, like, exactly. You'd like, it just,
did they hire Patino?
Yeah. That's my thing is, I think, when it comes to Amir Abdul-Rahim is going to be a national coach of the year candidate. I don't know if he'll be winner. You think about Washington State, Kyle Smith, some people who are in bigger conferences, but what he has done with a program that has just been dormant and dead for a long time, like, it's truly insane what's going on right now. But it's also, I'm super interested what's going to happen if it gets down to Selection Sunday, and let's say they go on a run where they go undefeated and lose in the conference final. What is that committee going to do? Because their net rankings and everything that goes into it, it is not on USF's side.
Right.
And we can all agree you should be able to weigh in the fact that at that point they would have won like 23 or 24, whatever it is. And that's important. And they are one of the best 68 teams. But, when you look at historically where they are in net rankings and what that's going to look like, they're going to land very much on the outside looking in. And they're not going to have, they might have like
crazy.
One quad one win to show for it. So, you wonder if the committee will allow themselves to be a little subjective with USF, or are they going to rely on what we've always done? And this is kind of how it looks. And their non-con sucked. They lost to some really bad teams. And what they did in November is going to drag them down in March.
It really shouldn't, but that is the way it usually works. I mean, you got to open your eyes a little bit, though. 24 of 25 or whatever it's going to end up being. If they lose to FAU, a team they have, they were up 25 on in a conference championship on a neutral site, how do you not still put them in? I don't know. Bizarre.
And the crazy thing is USF has to root for a scenario like facing FAU in the final, because
they do.
Even if they lose, that's a quad one game, and so they can lose that close, and it's still going to bring up their net ranking to a degree, because now their schedule just got tougher. I think hindsight is, if they can go back in time, they would have maybe switched out a couple of non-con games for a tougher opponent. And I think that's the learning lesson here. And I don't blame them, because, again, if I was Amir, if I was this university and I was coming into this situation that's been really bad for a long time, I want to try to pad out some W's before I enter a conference season.
Just get some numbers.
And just try to get my team feeling good about itself. But
absolutely.
Now what they are is they're kind of stock. And the way I make comparison to like the USF fans who complain about it when I explain the net rankings is you have to remember the Detroit Lions in 2022. We all thought that they were a playoff team when they beat the Packers in Lambeau, and we were all yelling about it, but they went 1-6 to start the year. And in the end, all the games do count to some degree, and we can all agree that USF is a top 68 team. That's an unequivocal fact, to be honest. But what you do in the beginning of the year, those games still count. If the Rays start 0-14 and go 14-0 in September, they cancel out. Everything matters in the course of a season. Yeah. And that's just a reminder to everybody out there that, even though you're not turning on the channel in November because you're still in football season, those games still count.
They do.
So, yeah.
All right. Hey, tell us before you go about the new Lightning show you guys are doing.
Yeah, we are going to have the Bolts Breakaway show. We did it for 4 episodes last year just to kind of ease into the playoffs. This year we're doing it for 7. It's going to air on 10 Tampa Bay at 7:30 in the morning with a rerun at 10:30. We have some interviews lined up with the players, David Shealy and myself. We did a car wash there at Amalie Arena during an off day, and got we got Braden Point. So that's going to be our lead interview, and then we got a few more coming along the way. We're going to have some guest appearances as well in studio, and we're just going to provide Bolts content for our area where I don't think anybody in the area really provides a long form show devoted to the Lightning, even though arguably they are our best franchise, our most successful franchise, certainly when we judge the history and certainly the most recent history. So we're going to delve deeper into them, especially now with the playoffs completely in flux. Last year we knew it was going to be the Maple Leafs and Lightning at this time. Now every week it's going to be, okay, what does this look like? How do we judge this? How do we look at that? What happens when Jeannot is going to come back? So we're going to delve into those deeper topics that I don't know that you necessarily get anywhere else, maybe outside NHL Network. But even there, they're not going to get into the nitty gritty. So again,
it's not much needed, man. Not much needed. 7:30 Saturday mornings and 10:30. We'll be watching for sure. Thanks, Evan. Appreciate your time as always.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Great stuff. All right, we'll take a quick break, do a station ID. When we come back, Tom Mullins is going to join us. He's done a deep dive into this Rays financial package in the new stadium. Some eye-opening stuff. Looking forward to this interview. Back in 3 minutes. Stay with us.
This is The Strike. 102.5 WHPT, HD2 Sarasota, Tampa, St. Pete.
JP here for the Jeeves Law Group, Jeeves. Call for a free case evaluation, 888-9-JEEVES. That's 888-9-JEEVES. We're local, we're trusted. The law firm brings over 80 years of combined legal experience focusing on clients in Tampa Bay, the state of Florida, and national class action cases. If you're injured, get that free case evaluation, no cost to you. The Jeeves Law Group's focus is on auto, truck, and motorcycle accidents, as well as class action and consumer protection law. Scott Jeeves is a board-certified civil trial lawyer and a certified circuit court mediator practicing in the Tampa Bay area for over 30 years. You hear him on the show all the time. Great guy, big Gator fan, and great for the community. The Jeeves Law Group is a highly skilled team with years of experience that will apply their skills, expertise, and knowledge to assist individuals who have been in an accident with compensation for damages, lost wages, medical expenses, pain and suffering, and property damage. Get that free case evaluation, 888-9-JEEVES. That's 888-9-JEEVES.
JP here for my good friends at Italiano Insurance, and they did it again. Once again, Italiano Insurance stepping up with the best customer service. I was in a bind. My old insurance company, my auto insurance, jacked up my rates, so I called Charity at Italiano Insurance, and she stayed till 9:30 at night until she got my insurance done. And guess what? She searched all these companies for me. I didn't do the work. She did. Saved me $1,000 on my annual premium. $1,000, folks. That's real money. And that's what you get at Italiano Insurance. Great customer service. And here's another note for you, by the way, with hurricane season up. 40% of people in Florida are underinsured. That means if you have something happen during a hurricane and you need replacement costs, you're going to get 40% less than you deserve. Can't let that happen. Call the folks at Italiano Insurance and get them to help you out in both those regards. They will save you money and keep you insured properly. That's 813-877-7799. Great folks in the community, been doing it for over 60 years. Italiano Insurance, 813-877-7799.
Start the new year with a new diamond from the Gold and Diamond Source. It's still engagement season. Where better to get that special ring than the Gold and Diamond Source? Of course, I just got mine there. I'm engaged. You should do the same thing. Let's go. Gold and Diamond Source has the largest selection of engagement rings in the country. A literal jewelry superstore with 30 times the inventory of any normal jeweler. And if you have a loved one or a special person in your life who has a birthday this month, maybe you have an anniversary coming up, you can get 15% off the January birthstone, which is garnet, as in garnet and gold for all your Seminoles. Celebrate that mythical national championship. And it's the Gold and Diamond Source's 40th anniversary. For the past 40 years, they have taken pride in offering only natural diamonds formed over billions of years from the Earth's incredible forces. And gold prices are at an all-time high. Now's your chance to turn your jewelry box into a cash machine. It's the perfect time to trade in your broken or unworn pieces for something new and stunning. It's the Gold and Diamond Source, 3800 Ulmerton Road, always online at thegoldendiamondsource.com.
Let's go. Right now, back to the show on FanStream Sports.
All right, welcome back to the JP Peterson Show here on this Friday afternoon. We're going to delve into some topics here that may be a little bit deeper than just a basketball game, folks. And it's deep pockets that we're looking at. We're going to talk about the Rays baseball stadium deal. And joining me now is Tom Mullins, who is a retired Raymond James executive who has worked in this field for a long, long time, knows a lot more about these numbers and how they work and how the sausage is made than I do. So, Tom, it's so great to have you on. And thanks so much for doing this and kind of explaining it to us meatheads here in the sports industry on how this deal works. How you doing this morning?
Hey, pretty good, JP. Happy Friday.
Yeah, so your website, by the way, is nohomerun.com. I invite everybody to go check that out because it's a real deep dive into these numbers. But just on the surface, what is your take on this Rays-Hines deal and why it's not the best way to develop this particular acreage?
Okay. Let me start by saying one, kind of main message, which is I personally, in our group, we have no interest in seeing the Rays leave the market. We're all baseball fans. We all go to multiple games a year. We all think it should be a civic priority for Tampa, St. Pete, the other communities in the area to keep the Rays in the market. So it's not any sort of anti-baseball or issue like that. So the main objections we have, and then let me say, among the people who are opposed to the Rays-Hines deal, they fall into kind of two camps. There's folks who actually would like to see baseball, stay in the downtown St. Pete area. Mm-hmm. They just think that the economics are wrong on this deal. That it's an enormous giveaway from the taxpayers to some people who who probably don't need the money as bad as the rest of us. So there's one group that again wants to keep baseball in downtown St. Pete, but just is arguing or is opposed to the terms that have been proposed for that. And then there's another group, and I'm in this group for sure. And JP, you may be in this group as well, based on some of our chats. Where we don't like the economics of the deal, but we really have issues with this deal more on more of a holistic basis. Like this is not the right location for baseball within the Tampa Bay market.
Correct.
This is not the optimal land use for the extraordinary 86 acres in the core of downtown St. Pete, and so that's the I'm in that camp, and I was in that camp before I even heard what the proposed economic terms were in the term sheet that came out back in September and October of last year. And, I, like everybody else, I was pretty shocked at the, the size of the giveaway.
Yeah.
So I'd say that there's, It's not really, you know, in your lead in here, you said, you know, that there was some complexity and, you know, to the finances here and all that. I don't really think it's that complicated. There's kind of, there's kind of three main reasons I think, to oppose the Rays Hines deal. And, you know, the first has to do, and maybe not in the, you know, maybe these aren't in the order of importance, but the first has to do with, you know, this isn't the right solution, the redevelopment solution for downtown St. Pete. You know, downtown St. Pete, who would have thought 20 years ago that it would turn into this super hip, you know, walkable, amazing neighborhood and all that. This is, you know, this is one of the, you know, absolute hottest real estate markets in the whole United States today.
Yeah.
You know, it's the place, you know, everybody's moving to Florida, and once they cross the state line, they either want to go to St. Pete or Tampa Bay or you know, this is one of the top spaces. So there is, you know, there is no urban planning textbook in the world that tells you that the right thing to do with 22 acres in the core of a super hot real estate market is to put a baseball stadium there or any kind of stadium there. You know, sports stadiums are relatively low intensity, low job creation, low value type of land use, and they require, you know, thousands and thousands of parking spaces, automobile parking spaces to be used. This is
wasted, a lot of wasted space.
Yeah. This isn't what you do with this, you know, this 22 acres. It is so that's you know, kind of.
And if I could just butt in here just a little bit, because I know I can hear my listeners out there and what they're saying. So that 22 acres, and we all agree we want to have baseball. It is, as you mentioned, it's a civic pride thing. I think it's a big part of why people live here, to have pro sports. But I say it just has to be done in the right way. And in this particular place, for the city of St. Petersburg, they don't need a stadium. And I think this is your point about the real estate market. They don't need a stadium to make that area better. In fact, it's better if it doesn't have a stadium, because number one, from a financial standpoint, those 22 acres you could sell for how much? I think you told me $20 million an acre.
Yeah, I mean, land adjacent to the gas plant site today is trading hands at $20 million an acre.
The Rays get this basically for free. They don't pay any real estate taxes on it, which that would normally bring about $411 million. I think you said. So $411 million that would be coming into the coffers. St. Pete gets nothing on that for 30 years, and they get the wonderful enjoyment of paying $700+ million to help build the structure on there, which is not going to provide jobs or any tax money. That's a huge net loss, right?
Right. Yeah, no, that was a good summary. Like, the second reason to oppose this really is just the economics. I mean, it's an extraordinary giveaway, you know, from people with relatively average income to people with with fantastic wealth, and the components of that are simply you're taking the city is funding a portion of the construction cost, roughly $300 million. That $300 million they are going to borrow, because they don't have the money. They're going to borrow it. And to repay that debt plus the interest on it over time is about $700 million. It's an extraordinary amount of money for a city. Here's a little known trivia for you, JP. The entire all the property taxes paid by everyone, every business, every resident in the city of St. Pete is only about $200 million
per year.
Per year. Yeah.
And you're gonna pay out $700 million.
So this is a $700 million obligation they're taking on. Then you got and like you said, you're taking, there's 22 acres of prime downtown. So for somewhere 30 to 40 years, you're not getting any property tax on that. If it was developed, using an alternative use, you'd be getting property tax. That's a $400 million hit right there. And then the big giveaway is really the other 64 acres of the Trop site, which are being given to the Ray Hines organization for, by our math, at least $500 million under market. It's an enormous giveaway.
So they're buying it for $155 million. That's their discount.
Yeah.
And it normally would go on the market for 600 plus million.
Yeah, the whole site we think is worth at least 700 million. We think it's pretty easy to
do the math.
I won't go to the methodology, but it's pretty easy to defend that number. And
why would they do why 155 million on that acreage? What is the Ray Hines group giving the city that would justify such an incredible sweetheart deal? The fact that the Rays aren't leaving and they're they're giving them $50 million for a museum.
That is the only thing I can think of is that you have some people in city government, and you also have a pretty strong fan base in St. Pete.
Yeah, I would argue that.
It's they're small, but they're loud and influential. And
I would agree with that. But you and about 25 other people are the only one. I don't even think you have season tickets. St. Pete season ticket holder, I think you could have a small banquet in a 50-head room. And that's one of the big problems.
Yeah.
It's a failed location. And nothing against the city of St. Petersburg, but most of the people who live there don't support the team. And they live closest to the team.
Yeah, JP. No, that's the third reason. I mean, it's the wrong thing for the gas plant site. It's the terrible economic deal, and then the third thing, again, is really it's not the right solution for baseball. This is a plus 20-year experiment. The experiment's been run.
Yeah,
what the outcome was. The outcome was nobody.
It's hard to get to during the week.
Yeah,
it's just really hard to get to during the week. I know you can ride your bike, but most of us can't.
Right. And it's, what's the first rule in real estate? Location. You're putting the stadium at the southern, close to the southern tip of a peninsula surrounded on three sides by water.
Right.
And the only way to get on the peninsula is through these chronically congested bridges. So, it's not.
So no, it's not the smartest idea in the world. But here we go.
And there's other locations. And the problem, I think part of the problem you've had in the process here is the Rays is, as long as someone's dangling this enormously valuable, prize for them, all this acreage downtown, as long as that's actionable for the Rays, they're never going to have a serious negotiation with anybody at, Derby Lane or at
the Carillon site,
or the Carillon site or the old Airco golf course, or or anybody in Tampa. You could put this thing.
Yeah,
you could put it next to the Buck Stadium and share that parking resource. If it was Asia, they'd landfill a few acres in the middle of the bay, and they'd put it in the middle of the bay.
And
nice. I'm serious. That's how.
Yeah, that's what they do. Yeah, no, that's what they do.
A lot of the airports in Asia are built on landfill, and then anyway, it's so there's alternatives, but if you've got if you're the Rays and you've got a chance to get this enormous financial prize, you're not going to. You're not going to have conversations like that and go around telling people that, there's two other alternatives. They want people to think that this is the only chance. Yeah, this is the last chance.
And Tom, with this deal being so bad for the city, I mean, this is a problem because we don't know where things are going politically in this country. The economy could really, really tank. I mean, there are a lot of people in your business that are forecasting this, correct? So if you get into a deal like this and, the projections all change, right? Projections all change. You could be sitting here, the city of St. Pete and Pinellas could be sitting here with this enormous white elephant, and you can't turn back. Half the stadium's done. I mean, am I wrong? I don't want to be, crazy about this, but this is you get into an agreement like this. It's so long term and things change quickly. This could be a disaster for the city and county.
Exactly. No, JP, you're segueing to two important points on this. First is the if you do this deal with the Rays Hines, you're basically locked in to them for 40 years. It's a 30-year deal with two 5-year extensions for the Rays Hines. So it's a long time. And that means that for this enormous chunk of downtown in one of the hottest real estate markets on the east, on the East Coast, you can't, if you're the government, even if you're the mayor or future mayor, you can't make a move without the cooperation of the Rays Hines. So people aren't giving enough weight to this element of the deal, is that if you go the other way, like we want to go, which is just, develop it kind of parcel by parcel with, independent guys, the same way most of St. Pete got developed.
Yeah.
Then as time passes, if, the city's objectives, change, the city has control of that.
Very nimble.
Control.
You can be very nimble.
Control.
You can move and adjust with what's happening in the economics. What happens culturally. 3 or 4 years, we may say, pickleball things aren't great anymore. So, this is, what's really big now is volleyball or whatever it is, or a convention center. Maybe they want to build a convention center, which would obviously be much more profitable and put more heads in beds, create way more jobs, et cetera, et cetera. So and all of these other projects, money's coming in, big money's coming in, big money ain't going out. And as I famously refer to this because I was in Atlanta when the Braves did their deal, behind closed doors in 3 months. And it's turned out to be a tremendously profitable deal for Cobb County. And despite what you might read in the Atlanta Journal and Constipation, did I get that right? Journal and Constipation. It's been enormously profitable for the cities, for Cobb County schools and the Braves and the fan base. The fan base love. We don't even talk about what's best for the fan base. 80% of the fans want it in Tampa, right? And that should matter. That shouldn't matter. That's my big thing here is what I'm doing. I don't dislike St. Pete. I love St. Pete. And I want what's best for St. Pete and any baseball stadium. But I also want what's great for baseball. And for baseball to thrive in Tampa Bay, it needs to be in the middle of the market, in a positive place where all of these things that we're talking about in the Tampa deal, by the way, is a long-term deal. It's a true public-private partnership where both sides get something out of it. This is an extremely one-sided deal, as you have pointed out. So that's where so much of this is, I think, bad. And politically moving forward, Tom, we now have, this is why your information is so important. The city of St. Pete, the city council, the county commission has to approve all this money. So this is far from done. As we move forward, how does this information that you've put out there, your website, and tell me about the League of Women Voters survey that they did and how this affects the whole dynamic politically?
Well, that's part of the reason I think that, we are getting some momentum, and, the city council members are readily taking meetings with us. And I think a lot of them are showing us this is because, you can document now that just the degree to which this is unpopular with the voters. There is, like this just happened last week, actually. The League of Women Voters did a pretty heavy survey of, I think they sent out, they got 800 responses. They sent out a survey to the 39,000 voters that they had email addresses for. They got 800 responses, and there were a handful of questions about the Rays Hines deal. And on virtually every question, the opposition was in the range of 80% to 80% opposed to 20% for it. That
80%.
Yeah, and that never, think about that. There's no issue. What other issue on the landscape today do 80% of the voters agree on? Like nothing.
None.
So that's the sort of thing I think that's going to strike a chord with, with some of the people that are in elected office today. That's impossible to ignore. There cannot be a more clear signal as to what people simply, are thinking and what their preferences are on this issue. So Tim, I think that really helps.
Tim, do you have any questions? My partner here, Tim, lives in Dallas and has been covering sports forever. They build stadiums like they're building parking lots over there. We can't seem to get one done. They've built like 7 baseball stadiums. Tim, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, the whole time I'm sitting there thinking about this is location, right? So Dallas Fort Worth is a big metropolitan area, obviously, right? So our major market teams built right in between Dallas and Fort Worth in a suburb named Arlington, which is also where our local international airport is. Everything is right in between Dallas and Fort Worth. When the Texas Rangers moved here from Washington in 1972, that's where the first stadium went, even though it was, much different time back then. And they've stayed there. We've now built 2 baseball stadiums in 30 years.
Yeah.
And we still have both of them. They're right next door to each other. They just repurposed, the old one, but it just seems like an obvious thing to most outsiders looking in that location, if you're going to draw the fans, and it's for that to be happening in Tampa the way it's happening. And, first of all, it started with the Trop being a wreck to begin with, I think back in 1990 or whenever, when it opened with no team and really no purpose for it.
Right.
But now you guys are still kind of suffering through where it is and the struggles of that. But it just shows the greediness, I think, of the ownership group, to say this is what is best for us and this is what's best for Tampa, to put it, and I love the way Tom put it, at the bottom of a peninsula, the southernmost point of our region, that's locked by just bridges that are hard to get across. And, it's like, it just seems so obvious to the rest of the country what's going on. And I feel really bad, man, for Rays fans and for everybody over there that's having to deal with this, because it just seems like it's a mess. And
well, Tim, it sounds like the lesson from the Dallas Fort Worth area is, and this is like, it shows how maybe naive and idealistic we are, but it's, part of the problem is, greed at the government level. You got somebody, trying to hog. Tampa Bay's only going to ever have one Major League Baseball franchise.
Sure, that's right.
That's just the way it is. And to try to hog that to one distant corner of the market, it doesn't seem like the right thing to do from a public policy standpoint. And it sounds like what happened in I don't know Dallas Fort Worth, in detail, but it sounds like at least there was a little bit of like altruism there, where people in like the leaders in Dallas and Fort Worth figured out, hey, maybe, we could hog this to one side or the other of the market, but the right thing to do
put it in the middle
is to optimize fan access to this team and to put it in the middle. And it's
in Dallas.
Also,
excuse me, Tom, in Dallas, do you guys have a conglomerate that takes all? I think it's 11 counties. I'm not sure what your metro area is, but did that they all put in for the stadium, or is it just the city of Arlington? How does that work?
City of Arlington.
They just do it. Wow.
It was all the city, and and the Cowboys now, who played in obviously downtown Dallas and Fair Park whenever they started, and then moved in '71 to a suburb, Irving, but still very close to Dallas. In 2009, when Jerry Jones built the new Cowboy Stadium, guess what? He put it in Arlington because he realizes, hey, look, there's 11 million people around here. Let's put it in the middle. Yeah. Let's draw from everybody.
Jeez,
so
what a concept. What a concept. Because fish don't buy tickets, I found out. The dolphins, and they don't buy season tickets. So if you surround a stadium by water, not going to help your attendance any. One other thing I wanted to say, Tom, is and I was bringing up the Atlanta example because what they did was they did a big, survey and said all our fans are in the northern part of Atlanta. Why don't we move the stadium where our fans are? That might be a good idea. And then the public-private partnership, which was great. And the mayor of Atlanta, unlike Mayor Welch, said, look, to the Braves, like, I don't have $500 million to give because I've got to give some money to the Falcons over here downtown. So if you guys want to build your own stadium in Cobb County and let them handle it, all good, man. Yeah, but it's still in Atlanta for the metro area. Braves fans can still go. That works for me. And here we have, and I don't want to pick on Mayor Welch, but where we have a mayor and a government body that's like, no, we got to hold on to this at all costs, even if it's it's a terrible deal for us. For what reason? Your constituents can still cross the bridge, or maybe not even cross the bridge, and go to a better location. What are we doing here?
Well,
I think about ego.
Yeah, well, I think it's fear. It's fear that you don't want to be the mayor that mayor that lost the Rays, and or that lost.
Well, that
baseball.
didn't happen in Atlanta. Everybody said, good job, Kareem Jackson. Smart. That was right.
I mean, maybe there's a good lesson in there for for the St. Pete government. The other lesson from Atlanta is that Turner Field was nothing wrong with that facility.
Perfectly fine.
But Turner Field, I think, showed you that baseball, again, just by its nature, it is not a high job creation. It doesn't spin off a lot of economic activity. You look at stadiums like Turner Field, really did nothing to sustain economic health in Atlanta. That part of Atlanta is suffering. I think it wasn't in great shape before.
Right.
And the stadium did nothing to help it.
Nothing.
Certainly like Camden Yards is doing nothing to help with, Baltimore's a disaster now. Camden Yards is doing nothing to help it. Comiskey Park, I'm from Chicago. Comiskey Park has never, had anywhere near the impact needed to help, the south side of Chicago economically. It's just not in the nature of the beast that baseball's just not. It just doesn't create.
I would argue the National Stadium. I think did a great job. I think the Houston Stadium did a great job. The Denver Stadium did a great job. St. Louis. I think there have been instances, but these particular places, they did it in the right way, and the public-private partnership was really, really well done. It was areas that weren't, giving off any real estate taxes. That the Lodo area in Denver was completely blighted, and now it's one of the hottest real estate markets with Coors Field. So I think there's ways to do it the right way. But everything is specific and individual, and that in those areas they were never going to be hot real estate markets like St. Pete. They were never. Nobody said where the national park is, oh, one day we're going to make this a real trendy. That was never happening. But in St. Pete, it is. So it's a totally different deal, and I think that matters. I think that matters tremendously when you're looking at and comparing different sites. So I think baseball can do that. But in this particular case, it doesn't make any sense financially and for baseball. But those are in all those places that I just talked about. They put the stadium in accessible areas, like in Denver, you got 3 or 4 different interstates coming in there. It's easy in, easy out. Same thing to some of these others. Not the case in St. Petersburg. It's a failed location, and you're putting good money after bad money. And it's just that's why it's a disaster. So
that's another part of the issue here is that St. Pete is not a big city, doesn't have a ton of money, but they're sitting on 86 acres,
a gold mine
that is an absolute gold mine. So what do you first rule of wealth of holding wealth? I'm an old banker.
That's what you do.
Is you don't bet the whole thing on one stock or on one little company or something, which is what St. Pete is doing. They're taking this whole windfall, and they're betting the whole thing on one baseball centric development concept, and that is that flunks investing 101 for sure.
That's a great point. That's a great point to leave it there, Tom. They're flunking investment 101. And I think the big message, and nohomerun.com is the website, is we can do better. We all love baseball. We want to keep baseball. This is not the deal for us. This is a deal for Stu Sternberg and his partners. And that's he doesn't have any partners anymore. They sued him. And that's another thing, Tom. If you're going to do a deal this big, like the biggest deal in history of Pinellas and St. Pete County, do you want to enter in with a guy who's being sued by his partners? Then the way that lawsuit looks and what he's done to his partners allegedly, you want to do the biggest deal in your history with a guy with that track record, and also who has literally told you to your face, you're ugly and we don't want you. Oh, and then you literally said that to St. Pete. You're ugly. We don't want you. It'll never work here. And then you shower him with cash. And now he says, oh, wait a minute. You're hot now, honey. You look really good. You look really good in that $2.4 billion dress. Come on. What are we doing here?
Yeah, I don't know Stu Sternberg, but I do like your metaphor there. That's
Yeah,
pretty,
exactly. Yeah. But
yeah.
I mean, investment 101, know who
Yeah.
you're dealing with, right? Know who you're getting in bed with.
Yeah.
Yeah. That might be
Indeed.
important to know as well.
Yep.
All right, Tom, listen, anything you would like to tell the audience as far as where they can find you guys, what they can do, take the survey. I think you guys got a petition on the website as well.
Yeah, sure. It doesn't. It's only a few clicks to participate and make your voice heard. And actually, JP, some of the it's some of the hardest people to reach for us are really the real hardcore baseball baseball enthusiasts, baseball at all costs type people. That's why I'm real grateful to be on your show, because I think your show probably has some of those folks in the audience.
Yeah, we do.
I would just ask those people to be open-minded about this and really know that we still support baseball with a lot of enthusiasm, but this is just the wrong redevelopment concept for the city. It's the wrong solution for baseball long term when you look at the interests of the whole market area, and obviously it's a very, very troubling economic deal. So we really ask them to look at these issues, and if they agree with us, to raise their hand, respond to
sign
one
the
of
petition.
the sign the petition, or better yet, tell your councilman to oppose this.
Do what Brian Auld and Stu Sternberg asked you to do. Contact your city councilman.
Yeah.
No, they just want you to do it if you support the deal.
Yeah.
But we're telling you, whether you support it or don't, let them know what you feel, because 80% of you we know don't like the deal. So make sure you let your councilman know how you feel about the deal. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it.
Good. All right, guys.
All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll come back, digest this a little bit. We'll hit the comments. If you guys have some comments on this, hit us up on Twitter at FanstreamJP, or in our YouTube chat or Facebook chat. You can do it there as well. Quick break. Back in 3. Stay with us. JP here for the Jeeves Law Group, Jeeves. Call for a free case evaluation, 888-9-JEEVES. That's 888-9-JEEVES. We're local, we're trusted. The law firm brings over 80 years of combined legal experience focusing on clients in Tampa Bay, the state of Florida, and national class action cases. If you're injured, get that free case evaluation, no cost to you. The Jeeves Law Group's focus is on auto, truck, and motorcycle accidents, as well as class action and consumer protection law. Scott Jeeves is a board-certified civil trial lawyer and a certified circuit court mediator practicing in the Tampa Bay area for over 30 years. You hear him on the show all the time. Great guy, big Gator fan, and great for the community. The Jeeves Law Group is a highly skilled team with years of experience that will apply their skills, expertise, and knowledge to assist individuals who have been in an accident with compensation for damages, lost wages, medical expenses, pain and suffering, and property damage. Get that free case evaluation, 888-9-JEEVES. That's 888-9-JEEVES. JP here for the Geddes Gordon Real Estate Group and our good friend Jane Geddes. Folks, simply put, there is nobody like Jane. Jane is a former LPGA two-time major championship winner. She was also vice president of talent relations at WWE. She also has a law degree from Stetson. So if Jane can drain a 10-footer to win the U.S. Open and stare down Hulk Hogan in the boardroom, you want Jane on your real estate team to not only negotiate the best deal, but find you the perfect home or investment property. And when you work with the Geddes Gordon Group, you become part of the real estate family and get concierge services that include expertly staging, marketing, and preparing your home for sale. Advice on golf properties. Hey, you might even get some golf tips. Many of their clients become friends long after the sale or purchase is completed. It's all part of the deal. So if you're looking for that perfect home or investment property, or trying to get top dollar for your home, go with Jane Geddes and the Geddes Gordon Group, because there's nobody like Jane. Call 813-485-6808 or go to geddesgordon.kw.com. That's GEDDES Gordon.kw.com, or call 813-485-6808. JP here for my good friends at Italiano Insurance, and they did it again. Once again,
Italiano Insurance stepping up with the best customer service. I was in a bind. My old insurance company, my auto insurance, jacked up my rates, so I called Charity at Italiano Insurance, and she stayed till 9:30 at night until she got my insurance done. And guess what? She searched all these companies for me. I didn't do the work. She did. Saved me $1,000 on my annual premium. $1,000, folks. That's real money. And that's what you get at Italiano Insurance. Great customer service. And here's another note for you, by the way, with hurricane season up. 40% of people in Florida are underinsured. That means if you have something happen during a hurricane and you need replacement cost, you're going to get 40% less than you deserve. Can't let that happen. Call the folks at Italiano Insurance and get them to help you out in both those regards. They will save you money and keep you insured properly. That's 813-877-7799. Great folks in the community, been doing it for over 60 years. Italiano Insurance, 813-877-7799.
Let's go. Right now. Back to the show on FanStream Sports.
All right, welcome back to the JP Peterson Show, brought to you by the great folks at Synovus Bank, the big bank with a local bank feel. Saw my buddy John Acosta last night, one of the managers over there. He'll be coming on the show next week just to chat about Florida State, which of course he loves to talk about, and what's going on in the economy. We try to keep you people up to date on everything, not just sports, but what's happening out there, real estate, things that you're interested in. So hope you enjoy it. Synovus Bank, synovus.com. Move your business there, move your personal there. Great customer service. That's what we love about Synovus Bank. Good local people over there. All right, Timmy, did you learn anything there?
Man, I tell you what, this thing's more messed up than I even thought.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't even know how to describe it. It's from an outside standpoint, right? Because I mean, it doesn't involve me one way or the other,
right?
But by the way, I just blasted out the link to the petition and the nohomerun.com website. I tagged JP and the JP Peterson Show on it, so
gotcha.
You guys head over to Twitter if you want to find the link.
Just did that. All right. Yeah. And it's a really interesting website. Sign that petition too. All right. Getting back to the sports end of it. Any breaking news? Anything happened while we were away on that deal?
Just more Mike Florio comedic tweets, about Caleb Williams and his lawyer thoughts on things.
Yeah. Okay. No worries.
I'd sure like to know, I want to go do a deep dive on how Mike Florio got to be where he is right now. Cause he's just an attorney, right?
He was a guy who was an attorney who had a fetish for NFL football, started a website, NBC bought it, and then it blew up. No different than Clay Travis with Outkick.com or El Presidente at Barstool. I mean, these guys they started websites and people gravitated towards them because they're moving away from ESPN and the mainstream media. And they brought an alternative take, and it wasn't corporate media. A lot of what we're trying to do here on a local level. So I think that's how Mike Florio got so big.
Yeah.
And he's got nice hair. That always helps.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that's part of it. So we want to talk a little bit about the Bucs too at the Combine, because they've been interviewing edge rushers for the past couple of days. And one of the guys that's linked to them, and of course everybody knows I love my Florida State Seminoles, is Brandon Fisk, their inside defensive tackle, who is just a monster and plays with just such intensity, and a guy that you could probably get. I know you can get him probably in the second round, might even slip to the third round. And I know that's a guy that they interviewed and they really, really like. There's some other edge rushers out there that I think it's not a great class. I think Jared Verse ran a 4.56,
right?
At 280 pounds. He'll be gone well before the Bucs pick, but I think there's going to be some value in this draft. Everybody says it's not a great edge rushing draft, but the more guys I see up there that the Bucs are interviewing, I think they may find themselves one. Leatu from UCLA is a guy that he's had some medical issues. Actually, had to retire from football for a little while, so you don't know how that's going to affect his draft stock. But that guy is, from a physical standpoint, phenomenal. Adisa Isaac from Penn State, who's the opposite end of Chop Robinson. Chop gets a lot more probably press than Adisa Isaac does, but I think the guys at Pewter Report, especially who's listening to their podcast, they really love Adisa Isaac and what he brings. Western Michigan, Marshawn Neeland is a guy that the Bucks had a formal interview with as well, that is kind of moving up the draft boards, from a smaller school that, I'm not saying he's going to be that Shaq Barrett 19.5 sack guy, but he's got some interesting metrics about him. Really long arms coming off the edge, something that the Bucks really haven't had since Simeon Rice. So I think there's some guys in this draft that can help them.
Did you see Chop Robinson at Penn State? He's a Maryland guy, and he was talking to, I forgot who he was talking, probably Pro Football Talk, who knows, about the possibility maybe of being there for the Ravens late in the first round. And he goes, man, I would love to go back and I would love to play at home. I would love to play with Lamar Jackson and be on his team. I'm going to make my mark in Maryland in pro football one way or the other. If they don't draft me, I promise I will have 10 sacks a game against Lamar Jackson every time I play the Ravens.
Wow.
Just out there like I'm going to do it one way or the other, either on your team or not on your team. So draft me if you can.
How would Ravens fans look at that? I mean, I would kind of say that guy's a dog. Let's go get him. Let's keep him from beating up our quarterback.
That's exactly how I see it. I wrote a piece about it over at ravencountry.com and we had quite a few comments on it, and they're like, oh my God, go get this guy. I love this fight,
Yeah.
So,
back to the Bolts as well too, because I wanted to get to some of the post game here. John Cooper spoke last night. The Bolts lose 3-2 in overtime to Buffalo, a team that's not currently in the playoff picture and probably not going to get there. They had a 2-1 lead going into the third. They give up a power play goal to Tage Thompson with 8:27 remaining. Which came after a weird high sticking call on Braden Point. It's just weird. I won't call it a terrible call, but just kind of a weird call. You'd have to see it. But then, the penalty kill doesn't get the job done. Vassie gets beat short side blocker on a great shot by Tage Thompson, but still, you got to have a save at that spot. They go to overtime. The Lightning actually got a couple of shots at the puck, but did nothing with it. I mean, you got to be more. I just didn't think they were very aggressive in overtime with their attack at all. It was just kind of discombobulated. They think they had Kucherov and Hedman and Stamkos out there early on, and it just and Buffalo kind of sat back. A lot of times you see teams will go out into this, man and man and chase guys around. Buffalo just kind of, once the Lightning got the puck, they kind of sat back in kind of a 3-man zone in front of Luukkonen and just kind of waited for them to come, and the Bolts didn't even get a shot on goal. And then they go the other way, and Thompson's kind of got a little bit of a breakaway. Kucherov hooks him in the hands. Obvious call. They go to the power play in overtime, and that's where Buffalo executes really, really well. Dahlin's at the top. The 4-on-3 is so hard to defend. He kind of passes it over to I forget exactly. It passes it to the wing, and then he cuts to the net and gets inside position on Glendening, and then it's just a backdoor pass, and it's just a pop in for Dahlin. Really, really well executed. And Glendening, I don't know. It's hard to fault a defense 4-on-3, but it seems like they could have done a better job than that. So it's a 3-2 overtime loss. You get a point. But, after winning 8 straight in a row at home, now they've lost 4 in a row. And 2 of those losses, even though they got a point last night, were to Ottawa and Buffalo. And that's just, and then you got Canadians coming in Saturday, and you got to get 2 points there. You got to get 2 points there. So let's listen to the post game. I think we got Braden Point in here. Mitchell Chafee, who got a goal last night, played really well, I thought. The rookie's got 3 goals now in his limited playing time this year. So let's listen to the guys and then Cooper at the end.
Braden, you guys have the lead in the third, and then the penalties cost you. Is this one going to be a tough one to digest?
Courtesy of Valley Sports.
Yeah. I took a penalty there, kind of an unfortunate one, and the guy's behind me, but still a high stick, and then they score on it, and then we get the chance to come back with a power play of our own, and we don't execute. So that part hurts for sure.
2 games now, the third period hasn't been your best, so it used to be a strength of yours. What's kind of turn that mindset around?
Well, I don't know. I think we're working. I think we're doing the right things. It's just whether it's bounces or pucks going in for them and not for us. There's a lot of our game I like tonight. Just, it's a tough one to take.
At this time of the year, it's hard not to get frustrated?
Well, yeah, we need these points. So, yeah, we need the points. So it's tough to lose the points. It's tough to lose the points.
4 straight loss at home here now from the previous homestand. How do you turn back this to being a hard place to
hard not to throw anybody under the bus?
I think for a lot of the game it was. I think we carried a lot of the play tonight. Did a lot of good things, and then, took a penalty and they scored on it, and then took one in OT and they scored.
Just touched on it. You guys did a lot of good things tonight, but you only get 1 point. How do you digest this game?
Mitchell Chafee.
Yeah, it's tough. Like you said, we need these points, so it's a tough one to swallow. But luckily we're right back at it on Saturday, and we have to win.
It's a second straight game where the third period kind of went against you a little bit. How do you make sure the third is more of a tougher period for other teams to play against you?
Yeah, I think, it's obviously doing the little things. It's getting it in deep and forechecking well, but I think a lot of it comes down to penalties, and it seems to be biting us a little bit now, and I think that's a big part that we can kind of clean up a little bit.
What were the things you liked about your game tonight, the team game?
I thought we were forechecking well. I thought we carried a lot of the play tonight, and we had a lot of chances. I think, you just don't get some of those bounces some nights, and it kind of felt like that was one of those nights.
When you're pressing, patience is kind of the word that I want to come up with. In the second period, it looks like you showed a lot of patience. How important is that in these type of games?
Yeah, obviously it's a big part of the game. Hockey, you got to know when to be patient out there and when to go full go. But it's kind of that crunch time of the year, and we need these points, and that's all that really matters.
Asking the question is,
John Cooper.
There's no doubt. It's hard because regardless of how the penalty was taken, I will, the one thing I had a problem with, points racing down the ice, and he's trying to chase down a puck for a breakaway, and then somehow I don't know how, whether the back checker goes into a stick. I don't think I've ever seen that called. So it does get called. Things go against you in games, and you got to kill it off. And we did a heck of a job. And they didn't get in our zone. The one time they did, or when they came out, we just made a mental mistake, and we had a bad change, and a good player made a great shot. And so now it's 2-2, and we, special teams became a factor because we got a power play as well, and we didn't do anything with it. And fortunately, we killed off theirs, but now we've taken 2 in the last 10 minutes, and then we take another one in overtime, and so it clearly sucks some of the momentum out of us. But if you want to win the game, you got to kill them off, and they get 2 power play goals difference in the game.
This has been such a home ice advantage for you here over the years. A little bit of a skid lately. Is there kind of a common thread of the struggles?
I can't sit here and say. We've had 10 days between home games here, and a game that I thought we played pretty well till we took the penalties in the end. And I think, tip your hat, their goaltender played pretty well. He made some 10-bell saves when we've probably could have put this game a little bit out of reach, but he kept them in it, and they kept plugging away. And then, again, it came down to us. We took too many penalties and a couple mental mistakes, and they take advantage. And this league's too good for you to be able to do that and get away with it, and we couldn't tonight. Again, I'm not the ref, so just plays that go for you and against you. I thought there was a lot went against us tonight. I think everybody in the building saw it, and they don't call it, but they didn't call it. So we can't sit here and say it was, that call was the difference. But they ended up calling the penalty against us, and we couldn't kill it off. And that's the main thing. You got to play the hand you're dealt. We were dealt a hand, and we didn't do well with it. So we can whine and cry all we want, but it's not us, and just go play the game, and they were able to take advantage of it, and we were not.
Chafee again, goal, bunch of block shots.
Yeah, playing great. He's doing great for us.
So did I hear him say they got called for too many men?
No, they did not. So in
okay.
overtime, there's only 6 guys on the ice, man.
Right.
And Tuck comes onto the ice, and he's probably, I don't know, 4 strides out on the ice and realizes he's too many men and goes back, and it's like, or somebody else came off. There's too many, and the entire crowd erupted like, hey.
And they didn't call it.
They didn't call it. And then moments later, Tuck feeds Thompson going the other way, who gets a step on Vassy, and Vassy hooked him. He got his, got his hand, you get the hand stick up by the hands, they're going to call it. And then Vassy makes the save, but they call the penalty. So, yeah, it's like that kind of led to the breakaway. The 4, I don't know if the Lightning players were kind of like, who am I guarding now? There's 4 guys on the ice. Yeah. I don't necessarily know if that was the case, but I don't know how you don't call it. It's maybe it's because it's overtime and, it's 4-on-3 and there's a lot of open ice and maybe it didn't have an effect on the play. But how much are you supposed to, as a ref, do all that, those machinations? There's 4 guys on the ice. He's clearly out a little bit further than the acceptable zone. You make the call. I mean, if the crowd's yelling about it, it's probably a little bit more obvious and it should be called.
Well, and I don't know what the stats are. I haven't looked it up. I need to do that because I've seen a tremendous, or maybe I've just noticed them, a lot more too many men on the ice penalties this season. Not just watching Stars, because again, it's hard for me to watch those, but all of the ESPN broadcasts that they have this year.
Fair. I think that's fair.
I've just noticed a lot more, and they seem really ticky-tacky. Sometimes you'll see a guy jump on the ice, he gets his skates there, he doesn't even take a stride, and he realizes, oh crap, he goes back over the wall. I've seen that called.
Yeah.
So for sure, if there's a guy 4 strides in on the ice before he turns around, you got to call that.
Yeah, I would agree. But it didn't go their way. And in those instances, and it's like Coop said, you got to execute, and Buffalo executed 4-on-3. I mean, it was over in a heartbeat. They executed a great play, a planned play. I was watching it with Dave Andrechuk, and he saw it coming. He's like, oh, that's a set play right there. And they executed it perfectly.
Yeah.
Because 4-on-3, they're worried about the shot. Glendenning's worried about Tage Thompson's shot, and they're, Dahlin just dumps it down to Middlestat, who now is threatening Vasilevsky from, below the circle. He's got Vasilevsky has to close off that side and leave the backside open at that point. He's too dangerous, right? And so Dahlin then just skates right in between, the 2 defenders and then gets inside position on Glendening at the back door, and then it's just it's an easy goal, So well executed, attaboy, well done, but the Lightning just did not, in those moments, they weren't good enough, and they need to overcome those bad calls or whatever you have, or even when you get a power play in the third there and it's 2-2, you get no shots and you almost give up a shorty,
right?
And their power play now that was historically good, like top 5 in the history of the game, is now 3 for 20. In their last 15, I think, if I got that right. So that's even struggling. Yeah, 3 for 20, 15% over the last 20 games. But a team that relies on the power play, you can't get that ain't working. So
yeah, and I noticed just 23 shots on goal last night. I mean, they only allowed 23, but 23 shots on goal.
There was a lot of good. It was a lot of good last night. But obviously in situations like this where you got to have 2 points, you're gonna look at the bad, and those old Lightning teams would close that game out. And even though I saw this, Edward Ancina had this in his piece today that kind of shocked me, actually, to be honest with you. They're 23-1-2 when leading after 2 periods.
Oh,
this year, the Lightning 23-1-2 when leading after 2 periods, which I'm shocked by that because I can kind of remember. That's leading, not tied. Okay, so the other night against Philadelphia, they're tied.
Right.
There's probably been a lot of games where they're tied going in the third period with that they didn't win. So I don't know. That number surprised me a little bit, but this is a game last night that they've been closing out recently during the good run and have not. So look, not all is lost. This is a very talented team and a very prideful team. And the thing about it is Brisebois now has room, salary cap room, doesn't have a lot of ammunition in terms of prospects or draft picks to give up, but he's got players. And I'm wondering how much are they mulling some things. as Evan Klosky mentioned earlier, this is the least productive month in Steven Stamkos' career, going back to his rookie season. And I know Breeze Bois said a month ago, we are not trading Steven Stamkos. We're not trading Steven Stamkos. His contract's up at the end of the year, which doesn't mean you can't bring him back, so I don't know. Would you trade Steven Stamkos?
I wouldn't.
That's not my call. I'm not here advocating it. I'm just sitting here saying, if you owe anybody, you owe Steven Stamkos. And I know that's not what it's about. It's about future production. But that dude took a lesser deal, like by a lot.
So you're saying you're doing him a favor by trading him to a contender so he can do something this weekend?
Well, I'm saying this, whatever. It's hard, man. It's so
tough,
hard,
isn't it?
Because this is a guy that literally changed the face of the franchise. And whatever it was 8 years ago when Toronto offered him $14 million a year, and he stayed with the Lightning for 8.75. Now I know taxes are different and all that, but now he did make it up on the sale of his house.
Oh my gosh, right?
I don't even need to get into that, but whatever. It's not like he needs the money, but I think for him it's a matter of respect. It's like, man, I should have, like USF should have done with Jim Levitt when he turned down Alabama. You get a lifetime contract after that. You get and once you get a lifetime deal. We're never going to fire you. And it's kind of with Stamkos too. But you can't give him $8 million a year for another 4 years. Can't do it. You could cripple the franchise in a salary cap league. If it wasn't a salary cap, geez, Jeffrey Vinnick would shower the man, But that's not how it works anymore. So we'll see. I'm Breeze Bois is not, he ain't shy. So I'll be very interested to see what this next week looks like leading up to the deadline. We shall see. All right. Great job, Timmy. Appreciate you, my friend. Thank you. Great interviews today with Evan Klosky from Tampa Bay 10 and Tom Mullins, former Raymond James executive, who did the deep dive into the Rays Hines deal with the city. It's a disaster, folks. You got to go read this. NoHomeRun.com is their website. 80% of voters, tallied by the League of Women Voters, do not want this deal in Pinellas County. So go check up on that. Have a great day, everybody. Have a great weekend. Go Bolts. I'll see you at Ambly Arena, and we'll talk to you on Monday.